given, some other people in the community bringing up some specific points on certain things that are happening in this season, I do agree with you. There is a cause for concern, but I ultimately hope that everything in this season works out.
Yeah. So, we could talk about it really when it comes to Claire. Obviously, Claire being our headline voted out. I think we're both very shocked that Claire is out this soon. We were talking about it both in person and over text. We were like, just from Claire's bio, from her backstory as a fan, we had her penciled in for merge. I mean, she was going to go far, in my opinion. I feel like this is one of the reasons why we're going to mention the new era format and how it's kind of disadvantaging these players who could have been kind of like a Kelly Wentworth, could be stars in future seasons. It's just the circumstances just terrible.
Right. Yeah. And I told you last week, I said, me and my brother, we pick three players in the first half of every episode of every season that we think are going to be our final three, or not necessarily our final three, but our top three contenders to win. Two of mine were Helen and Claire, back to back on. So it is tough to see, because I think that Claire, in addition to Helen, also last week had a lot of potential, and unfortunately, look, I didn't think the Green Tribe was going to lose the entire pre-merge. I was wrong about that. And then, as we're going to get into the format plus, and I can't abstain Claire from any fault. Obviously, some of it is on her as well. So some of the decisions that Claire made in the new format game, which is, disadvantageous to some players, depending on, your physical abilities. It's a little bit on both. So excited to get into it. Let's get, instead of going chronological, let's just get right into this Claire vote.
Yeah.
So first, I'll start off with, do you think it was the right decision for the Soka tribe, the Green Tribe, to vote Claire off this episode?
It was. I mean, as much as I like to see Claire, and maybe she'll come back at some point, it was the right move, especially for Danny and obviously for Josh, and since his name was thrown out, and Heidi. That contingent, it was the right move. And then for Frannie, she had to hop on board. I mean, you can't really distance yourself this early with the vote being on the out. So for everybody involved, it was the right move, because I mean, Claire was not playing in the challenges. Now we can get into her exit press. And actually, Dylan, I was going to say to you as a side note, I actually haven't minded recording with you not live on Wednesday, even though it's always fun to go live after the episode to have our quick fire reactions. Getting to hear the exit press and seeing some more pieces filled in, I think helps the puzzle be more complete. Because yeah, obviously Claire was voted out, not playing in the challenges, but also it sounds like Danny, after day 6, had kind of penciled her as a threat. So it was kind of a mix of her not playing in challenges, but also her being a social threat and him wanting to strike at her first. So I think for both of those reasons, it was the right move to take Claire out for everybody involved.
Yeah, I think it was the right move for a few reasons, right? One, at the end of the day, even though we may not agree with the format, and we get into that, like, as Lightning Blitz says here in the comments, the 3-tribe format has been done to death. This is the 4th time in a row we've seen it. We know that there's no swaps coming. They know that there's no swaps coming, and as a result, you know that you have to keep your tribe as strong as possible in order to, get yourself further in the game, because you got to keep winning these challenges when there's not going to be swaps. So you got to keep the tribe strong. Like, at the end of the day, it might be great to get out a big threat on your tribe, but if there's no swap coming, then you're putting yourself in danger by voting out, let's say, a challenge threat early, when that could ultimately send you home the next episode. So at the end of the day, you have to keep the tribe strong. And because of that, we are seeing a high proportion of women get voted out early in these 3-tribe formats. And we don't have to get into, every single season, every single person that was voted out, but I believe there was some stat. I think last season we lost 4 women to stars. Is that correct?
Yeah, so basically the stat that you're referring to, if people want to just hear it by the numbers, because some people prefer to hear the numbers versus, the personal opinions. But basically, if you look at the new era, there's 12 tribes, obviously 3 tribes and 4 seasons. 10 of the 12 people that were voted out first from their tribe have been women. And if, let's just say, you take out the medevacs of Bruce and of Jackson in the last few seasons, first 3 people out this season have been women, minus Bruce. First 4 people out last season were women. In 42, you take out Jackson. 2 out of 3 first were women. So there is a pattern. But Dylan, you said it perfectly. It's not just that the audience knows that there's no swap; it's the players know that there's no swap, which means that they can say, we can keep challenge beasts in because we're not going to swap. So we don't need to worry about someone who's not going to really be disloyal to us and have to worry about that losing them to a swap. We can keep the physical players because we want as many numbers going into merge. I saw Lindsay from last season said on Twitter that she and Ryan were never going to work together ever, but she was never going to write his name down because he could help them win challenges. And I think that's why Lightning is saying this format has been done to death. And next season, they either have to do swaps with 3 tribes. If Jeff loves 3 tribes, you got to do swaps, or you need to go back to 2 tribes because now the players have started to game the system, kind of like how Carson and Matthew practice the challenges. Once people have gamed the system, you have to change it up now.
Yeah, I do agree with that. And as it pertains to Claire, I'm not even sure that if she had. Now, I want to say that I do put the blame partially on her for not participating in any of the challenges. At the same time, even if you look at their tribe, even if she had participated in the challenges, based on the way that they're talking about Franny and Heidi in the challenges, she may have been the odd person out anyway, even if she had performed. So, look, I think that she definitely got a little bit screwed, and I also think it was the right move to vote her out simultaneously. Right? I think that even in addition to the challenge thing, Danny was in the right to peg Claire as a social threat. Clearly, we saw that. I think I pegged her as somebody that was going to be a very good social player throughout the season. She had been, kind of looked like she was maybe going to team up with Franny and Matt, and that could have been a 3. And yeah, I think if she gets to emerge, she probably goes pretty far. So I think that Danny did a good job here, if it was in fact, which it was mostly on him, to vote out Claire. So I think it was the right move. I just think that unfortunately she did get a little bit screwed based on the format that everyone knew was coming.
And obviously, good on her for obviously understanding that she was. She said in her exit press she knew before Tribal she was going to get the vote, so that's why she played her shot in the dark, and it didn't obviously work. But she knew she was in a tough spot. It sounded like from what she was saying, if she's correct, that if they had gone to Tribal Council in the first 2 episodes, Matt was obviously the name because he had lost his vote. Matt was the name that they were going to vote early off. And then, like she says, something flipped on day 5 or 6, and Danny realizes, Claire's a threat. She's like, he's starting to talk to me different. He's not as open and, jovial around me. So she knew that something had swung, and, Danny pegged her as a threat, which was, I think, correct, like you said. And I think the other thing about her sitting out, because I do agree with her in one way where she's like, you're never going to sit Danny out. You're never going to sit Matt out. You're probably not going to sit Heidi out because Heidi does the CrossFit and whatnot. You're never sitting Josh out. So it's like, it really comes down to her and Franny, and if Franny's good at puzzles, Claire says, I did it for the good of the tribe. The issue here is, like, Stephen Fishback brought up a really good point, and I think all former players would agree with this. When you win, you have like a sense of camaraderie, like, we won this together, we did this together. And, 3 times in a row, if you're not in those challenges and you don't win or lose together, people take notice of it. So even though I do agree with Claire, where she says, if I was taking one for the team, if the tribe wants me to sit out because I won't be as good as the others, that's fair. But like, if it's 3 times in a row in this new era, people are going to pick up on it, especially when there are no swaps and they want to keep the tribe strong. So it's, again, unfortunate circumstance for Claire, and that's why I think that proves the format has to really be changed.
Yeah. I do agree with that. Now let's get into the one more thing I want to bring up actually about this vote.
Sure.
And you mentioned Stephen Fishback, and what I heard that he said on his podcast the other day that I think is interesting. You mentioned that the votes seemingly were at the beginning, like Matt may have been the person, and then it kind of just switched off, and it was not on Matt at all. For some reason, pretty much all these new seasons, this is the point that Fishback brought up, all these new seasons, the person that ends up losing their vote has not really been in trouble, which is interesting. And I think it's something for future players to keep in mind, right? You may lose your vote, but if you lose your vote, you're also not a threat. So I think if you lose your vote, you have no power. And unless you're really like rocking the boat and as a result could just be voted out, I think that there's not a huge reason to vote somebody out with no votes, because
it was tough because, like you said, yeah, you lose your votes, you're not really that big of a threat in that way. And they can always keep, and especially in Matt's case now with the fake idol, Danny has him right where he wants him. He can just keep him around, which is another reason why it was smart to take out Claire, because Matt is really pigeonholed by Danny here. But also people are like, well, yeah, they may have lost their votes, but because this new era is so fluky, you could be like a Sarah, where Sarah lost her vote, but she also had an advantage. So you might be scared to vote for somebody out because they might have an advantage, albeit with the lost votes. So you go target their ally instead. So that's why it's very tricky.
Yes, that is another good point. But let's get into the chronologicals of the episode here. Just want to remind everyone that if you're watching, be sure to throw a like, subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Throw some comments in. We'll answer all questions, all live comments at the end of the video if there are. But let's get to it. So we start off this episode after, at the Tiga tribe, the Purple tribe, after Helen was voted out, and Sarah, obviously, we hear from her, who was left on the outs of this vote. She said she feels very threatened by Carson as a player since everybody trusts him. I think she is in the right to feel threatened by Carson. I think he is in a great position. I also think that there may be nothing Sarah could do about it.
Yeah, no, Sarah is somebody where I was saying to myself, if Purple loses, she's gone. Like I was really hoping for Purple to win, because I just like that tribe as a group of characters with Carolyn and Jam Jam and Carson and Sarah. But it's one of those things where, like, I was really hoping Purple won, because if they lost, it was going to be a slam dunk case that Sarah wins. At least with Green losing, I figured it could be Claire, but maybe something could happen with Franny or Matt or Josh. But yeah, no, Sarah's in a rough spot. She needs, the merge to come, and she needs them to keep winning. And yeah, obviously that speaks to Carson's game, right, Dylan? Like, if she's threatened by him, but she trusts him the most and she wants to work with him, that speaks to how well he's doing. That she was burned by him, yet she still finds him enticing as a player. So, and look, obviously she can make a pitch to Carolyn and Jam Jam if they lose. Like, look, they're not going to turn on each other, obviously. So you have to take out Carson because he's a bigger threat than I am. I don't think Carolyn and Jam Jam will vote out Carson, but that's Sarah's only play. So she's in a really tough spot.
And I want to bring something up about this, is like, she still wants to work with him despite the fact she was burned by him. We've seen some success in this new era by, like, some of the younger players, right? Xander gets to the end. Sammy does really well last season. Like, I'm wondering if the fact that, like, he's so young, I believe Carson's 19 years old. Is that correct?
At the highest, he's 20, so he's very young.
Okay, right. So he's either 19 or 20. Bottom line is that I wonder, like, if because he's so young, he just, she says she feels threatened by him, but at the same time, she wants to work with him. So does she actually feel threatened by him? Like, that's what I'm wondering. I'm wondering if, like, because they're so young, if players are drawn to them because they don't come off as maybe threatening as people, even though, again, she said she was threatened by him because of what happened at the vote. But I'm just saying, like, everyone wants to work with him. I think the reason why is because he seems like he's not a threat. I kind of feel like the same way with Sammy last season and with Xander, is like, people wanted to work with them. They're drawn to the young people who were just like, your impression of them going in is like, oh, they're so young. They're just, they're not a threat. They're just going to be out here and, enjoy the adventure and blah, blah, blah. But next thing you know, they are really good players. So I think there is something to keep an eye on there with a little bit of a trend, but young players have been doing really well lately.
I think it's certain archetypes too, right? Like, you think of, like, the mom archetype, and sometimes they get voted out early just because, they see them as the older woman. But then there's times like with Dawn in Caramoan where, you see the mom archetype and you want to work with them because you trust them as a mom, and then you get burned by them and then you feel upset. I feel like with Carson, and you could argue this with Sammy and Xander, like the little brother archetype. And, if people see you as like the little brother in some way, and it's like, oh, my little brother won't turn on me like that, and I want to keep them safe. That kind of could be the archetype that Carson's maybe falling into with his age, and that's why you're seeing some of these players have that success, possibly.
Yeah, for sure. But let's get into Soka here at the beginning of the episode. So obviously, Franny and Matt was a big storyline again. But then it switches up a little, and the storyline of the episode for Soka ends up being, Danny, who keeps his real idol and then locks back up the fake idol in the birdcage, which is with the real note, which is, we've
Mhm.
all been like, oh, what would you do? What would you do? This is something that we kind of brought up as something that we would want to do.
Yeah.
Lock up the fake idol in the bird cage. But then what does he do? He proceeds to hide the key and he eats the fake note. What do you think here? This scene was unbelievable.
Okay, so there's a lot of things to delve into here because this was my other problem with the episode in addition to the new era format. And by the way, this whole Danny sequence I loved. Favorite part of the episode. Danny's so much fun to watch. But this is where I also agree with Steven, where we're getting into a very slippery slope here with the fake idols that we'll have to get into. First of all, Dylan, I don't know why he had to eat the notes. I don't know why he couldn't either just throw it in the ocean and let it just wash away.
For TV. He ate it for TV.
For TV, yeah. I was like, yeah, you have a million other things you could do with this note. If you don't want to risk hiding it and someone finding it, tear it up, throw it in the fire, put it in like the ocean. Like I don't know why he had to eat it, but yeah, I mean, with Danny here, Dylan, the biggest thing with this is that he locks up the fake idol with the real note. And obviously Matt ends up finding the key. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but Matt ends up getting the fake idol. This is where Steven was saying we're on a very slippery slope. And I want to get your thoughts on this because it's one thing, Dylan, with Bob and Gabon or Rick Devens making fake idols. When you just take beads and string them together and you make a little makeshift idol, sometimes these idols from production can be a little bit, shoddy, shall we say, and you can get away with making a fake idol. But when it comes to a silver coin, and you can't fake a silver coin. You can't make a fake silver coin idol unless someone has loose change. But if you do that and then you put the real note with it, how is Matt ever going to know that that's fake? And now we're getting to a point with idols, and this is where people have been on Survivor's case lately with advantages and all this stuff. We're getting to the point where you have to now question if an idol is real anymore, because if there's a note, now how do you know that someone didn't put the note there? The only way I would say now an idol's real in New Era is like with Jeremy Collins, where you find an idol at a challenge, because they're not going to hide the idol at the challenge. But other than that, how is Matt going to know, Dylan, that this is a fake idol, that this is fake? This is getting really tricky now.
Yeah, he's never going to know, right? So it is tough. I agree. Again, I think I don't want to overreact too much, because I think that like other things in the new era, a small tweak will probably be made to ensure that there's some kind of difference that you could tell, or maybe something where it's like if they give you the tools to a fake idol, maybe it looks more fake, or maybe there's a way to tell it's fake compared to again, like a silver coin. You can't fake a silver coin. You're not making a silver coin out there. So there is never a way that Matt will know. And now Matt is stuck with a fake idol and thinks it's real. Now, again, let's stick to the Soka tribe, and then we'll move to what happened with the Ratu tribe, the Orange tribe. But I want to know here. So obviously Matt finds the key that Danny hides. And that was so funny with Danny, the way he was like, I can't believe these people can't find it. I hit it in the most obvious spot. But anyway, Matt finds the key, opens the cage, gets the fake idol, thinks it's real. Danny sees it and then kind of tells him oh, I saw you put that in your pocket. And he says it in front of Josh. And then the way that Matt handled that was hilarious to watch also. It was he lies, and then he waits for Josh to walk away, and then he tells Danny, and then he ends up telling Josh anyway. Because and then next thing you know, Franny knows, and now the whole tribe knows, obviously, right? So the whole tribe knows that Matt has an idol, but the only person that knows it's fake is Danny. So we're in a really, really interesting spot here. Very interesting. What I want to know from you, Ryan, is, was it the right move for Danny to go all out chaos this early in the game?
Yes, if you can control it, because I subscribe to the school of thought where you can't play too hard too fast. You just can't play too sloppy, because obviously and this is a really separate example, but I can't say that in South Pacific Coach played too hard too fast by making a night one alliance in that beach, because that set him up to make it to the final three. So playing hard early on to set yourself up is fine. it's when people play sloppy and they get paranoid, they talk too much. That's where it's the problem. You need to have, like Lightning says, controlled chaos. You can't just be sloppy with it. So I don't mind Danny doing this because Danny now has the real idol. He's put Matt in a very bad spot with a fake idol and no vote. He has Heidi as a final two, which, by the way, we've never heard in confessional that Heidi and Danny are working that close together. We had to kind of pick up on context clues that he's telling her about the vote. And now Claire is saying in exit press that Heidi kept saying, well, I want to save you, but I want to stay loyal to Danny. Like, clearly there are final two out there, even though they didn't say it to us, Danny and Heidi. But like, I don't mind Danny doing this to Matt. I have a bigger problem with Matthew doing it to Jamie, as we'll talk about in a second, because if they're allies, you don't want to give your ally a fake idol. And clearly Danny and Matt are not working together. So I don't mind Danny doing it as long as he doesn't make Matt feel stupid.
Well,
I mean, Dylan, it's almost like with David versus Goliath, where Angelina makes the fake idol for Allison to find, and Allison just raked her over the coals in Final Tribal because she's like, so you basically just want to make me look stupid. And nobody on Survivor, nobody wants them to be felt like they were made to be stupid. So, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say one thing here. The way that I would approach this if I'm Danny is, here's why I asked the question. Okay, first of all, I think it's the right move, like you said, if you could control it. But here's the reason I asked the question, because if you get into a scenario pre-merge where Matt is on the chopping block and Matt plays the fake idol and it's outed as fake, then you completely get exposed. Right?
Okay.
So I mean, look, I guess I'm trying to think if probably you wouldn't necessarily know, the other people wouldn't necessarily know that it was Danny who set it all up, I guess, because they just think that Matt had an idol, but now it's going to be a fake. So if it could get outed that somebody's behind this all, is bottom line, right? You know that somebody set up the fake idol. You don't want that. So in my opinion, Danny has to keep Matt close to him, at least for the foreseeable future. So it's like, keep your friends close and keep your enemies close. Like you have to keep Matt close to you so that you make sure that you are keeping that fake idol in his hands until the right time that you need him to play the fake idol and get him out, if that makes any sense. So you want to go basically as long as possible without people knowing that somebody is behind this master plan. Somebody found did this with the birdcage and the fake idol. So I think that's kind of my thoughts on Danny. And in order for all this to happen, he's got to just be very, very careful. And that's the bottom line.
So that's a really good point. And I do agree with you that you have to kind of keep Matt close in that way. And honestly, this could be bad for Franny if Green loses, because clearly Danny and Heidi are not flipping on each other as the final two. They have Josh roped in, and now you have Franny and Matt on the outs. And if you don't want to vote out Matt because you want to keep him in the fake idol in the game longer as a little buffer for you, and Franny's obviously a pretty strategic threat, you may want to get Franny out here. So I think that's pretty tough. I will say, Dylan, I still don't mind Danny doing it because I think Danny just as a personality and as a physical threat will make it to the merge no matter what. So I think he'll be fine. And I think he did the right thing here. He is also very grateful, and I don't think he knew this, so he kind of killed two birds with one stone, that he got Claire out now. Because Claire, I don't know if you read the exit press with Mike Bloom. She started to catch on that Matt had a fake idol. Because what happened was, if you remember, when she's talking to Matthew in the first challenge, when they're sitting out, and he says, oh, Brandon found it. Oh, I'm sorry, no. So what happened in the first challenge, remember how they were talking about the Advantage Island?
Yes.
And then he's like, did they show you the note? Did they show you the notes? And that's where Matthew learns from Claire, when Matt shows Soka the note, he realizes, okay, Laura may have lied. Apparently, they also talked about the birdcage. And Matthew told Claire, now the key thing is, did Claire share this info before she got voted out? Otherwise, it's dead information. Matthew tells Claire, again, according to the exit press, that Matthew said to her, yeah, we found the idols in the birdcage as a group because Brandon did it in front of everybody, and there was a real and a fake one in there. Now, Claire puts two and two together and realizes, so if Matthew only found one thing in the cage, that must be the fake. Because why would the real thing still be in there? If there's only one thing left, it's a fake. So she probably realized Matt had a fake idol. I don't know if she did anything with the information, but Danny is now especially lucky that Claire's gone because, like, you're right, Dylan. You need to keep that information out as far as possible. And if Claire was still there, that could have really hurt Danny then.
That's really interesting. Yeah. I didn't even, I mean, obviously we didn't see them talking about the birdcage, so I didn't even consider that was a possibility. But yeah, it was clearly now the right move to get Claire out.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think if I have anything else here. With the Green Tribe. Yeah, I think that it's going to be interesting to see how Danny handles this all. And if I had to choose, I would say that Franny is probably in the worst spot right now in this tribe.
Yeah, because I mean, you would think right off the bat, Matt's in the worst spot because he has a fake idol and he can't vote a second time. But like we keep saying, I mean, Matt is so declawed by Danny here. Like, Matt really can't do a single. And Danny's like, well, if I need to split up the showmance and Matt can't do anything with a fake idol, I may as well get Franny out. So Franny better hope that Soka wins next week too. Yeah. So every week, Dylan, people ask us who's in the best and the worst spot on each tribe. I can tell you right away, easy green and purple. Sarah and Franny are easily in the worst spots on their tribes.
Yes, I completely agree. But let's get to the Ratsu tribe where, you know, we kind of went from like them being like the Bad News Bears in the first episode to like now they're like on a high, right? All of a sudden you get Kane singing the national anthem, Brandon going spear fishing. You have Kane doing the thing with the sword. The tribe's eating worms, which I guess if that's your thing, then go for it.
Dylan, would you? If your tribe was doing it, would you? Because I feel like no matter what, I would be like, no,
zero chance.
No shot.
And now we have the most interesting part of this whole thing where Jamie says she feels like she's very close to Matthew. They're getting tight, and we go to the well where Jamie they point out something on the ground. Jamie looks, and then next thing you know, Jamie says, "Oh, I found an idol," and we're like, immediately I thought to myself, like, oh, come on, they're putting idols right at the well now. I was like, you got to be kidding me. That's like a terrible hiding spot. Like, why would they do that? Like, if you're going to rehide the idol, make it challenging, right? I was like, they just wanted to get back into circulation. And then we get the flashback where Matthew says that he found the real idol, and then he made a fake idol and hid it. And then he purposely made sure that Jamie kind of, you know, was looking at that spot in the well and like point something out on the ground so she could like go down there and like see the idol. So he tried to make Jamie find his fake idol. What are your initial thoughts here?
I mean, I don't like it. Well, first of all, going back to our whole idol discussion, I don't mind Matt making the fake here because obviously with the beads, it's fine. Like we said earlier, if it's a silver coin or like a golden cross, like it was in Nicaragua, that's where we get into a really bad spot with the notes because then you can't fake it anymore, and then you're giving way too much power to players who make fake idols. But with Matthew, I see his argument at first, right, Dylan? Because he says like, you know, I find an idol with Jamie. That means we're closer together and we build that trust. Because Stephen Fishback always says if you share the information of an idol to your number one, it builds that trust. So I don't mind him doing it there. And then he also says, well, then if I want to ditch her and not work with her anymore, I can then throw her under the bus and say she has an idol. So he's kind of trying to position himself to either work with her or work against her. So he's giving himself options. The problem is, what did I say earlier? People never want to feel like you made them feel stupid. And if Jamie feels like she's close to Matthew as a friend and as an ally, she plays her idol. And granted, we saw she can get paranoid. So he can't stop her at some point if she just whips out the idol, because he probably would tell her, do not play that idol right now. And it gets outed as a fake. He's going to look very bad to his ally. So this is where, remember how I said earlier, don't play sloppy? I don't think Danny's playing sloppy yet. I think Matthew could be starting to be playing sloppy here, is my thoughts.
Yeah, it's a slippery, like it's tough. It's tough. I almost think it seems like the classic case of doing too much, right? To me, it's just like pocket the idol and just don't say anything and just keep building your relationship with Jamie. But like now you make it to the fact that if Jamie gets paranoid again, which again, we've seen her be paranoid for no reason, and she just plays the idol and it ends up being outed as fake, then he gets outed as the one behind the fake, most likely, or at least again they know that somebody made a fake, and it looks bad not only for him if they figure it out, like who's gonna want to work with him the rest of the game if they
Mhm.
know that he made a fake idol for his quote unquote top alliance member. So
Mhm.
I think again it's tough, and he has to make sure that this fake idol is used properly and not just like immediately just played at some random tribal council where things start to get paranoid.
Mhm.
So again, I think he almost made the job harder for himself. I feel like that's how I ultimately feel.
Yeah, and again, I don't mind him giving himself options because if she never ends up finding out that he created the fake, then I understand his reasoning here because he either can work with her or if he wants to get her out, he has a very easy way to get her out now. I just feel like if you start to try to do, like you said, do too much, it really makes it tricky. I think he's in the best spot on this tribe though, because obviously Kane voted wrong. People were looking at Lauren. Brandon got votes last time, so he's in the best spot. He has to just maintain that spot. He can't try to get too flashy with it.
Yeah, well, one thing that I was actually thinking about is if she were to play the idol, the fake idol, and Jeff says this is not a real idol, it's a fake. Um, she can immediately know that it most likely wasn't Brandon behind it, right? He could immediately because he has the
The real one.
he had the real one, he played the real one, he has the real fake.
I mean, he has the real fake. Yes.
Yes. So he has the real fake. So it's not that. So somebody else had to make it. So then you limit yourself down to options, and it's like, will they catch on the fact that it's Matthew? I think that's the important
Yeah.
thing is he has to again.
Mhm.
You got to make sure that Jamie does not use this at a time that you don't expect, or maybe too early in the game. So
Yeah.
it's to me it's making your job harder than it needs to be.
Yeah, I mean, look, we didn't see that much from this tribe, obviously, from this week. But if they go back to tribal council, we'll have to see how it plays out.
Yep. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else we want to hit on this episode because we didn't
So,
really see too much from Tika other than the fact that there was one more segment with Yam Yam snoring. The tribe was like being goofy. Mentions they're talking about how they were like a physically weak tribe. I kind of get a sense that at least those three on Tika, Carson, Jam Jam, and
Carolyn.
Carolyn, I kind of get a sense that those three are going to maybe run the game. Like that's kind of where I'm at right now. Like once if they go to one more tribal council, they have an easy vote, and then eventually you're gonna hit the merge. So I think they are cruising right now. And I think it could be the least three. If you had to pick the three players you least expected to run the game before the season started, it may have been that three. So it's going to be fun to watch. But I don't think we really have much to say on
Yeah.
Tika here. More.
Yeah, no, I don't have much on Tika. I do want to go to the challenge for a second because Lightning brings up a question. Because I actually have a couple, for the first time in a while, Dylan, I have a couple of things to bring up from the challenge, which are usually not that critical to the episode. But obviously, Claire sitting out and talking to Matthew was important in the first episode. But I do want to get to a few quick things here before we get to some questions. So Lightning brings up the fact that, and this is a question as well, what's your opinion on other tribes copying another tribe? I don't like it because it makes it boring to watch. So people were very split on this, Dylan. People are always very split. Like, if it's allowed, do it. We don't care. Jeff says you can do it. It's fine. Other people say, I hate it. It's boring. I think it's, really cheap. Because here's the thing. Sometimes in Survivor, and Jeff said this on his podcast, they just changed it up. Sometimes they put dividers up where you can't see it. Sometimes they give you like a little puzzle cover to cover it up. And then other times they say, we don't care, just go for it. Do you have an opinion on this?
Yeah, my opinion is that I think it's ridiculous. Honestly, I hate it. Um, if a puzzle like that is done, the requirement should be that the tribe that finished the puzzle has to kick it over,
Yeah, you have to knock it over.
or Jeff just has to just kick it over. Like Jeff just has to go up if they're like celebrating. Jeff just has to go up to the puzzle and just kick it down and just be like, no, because that was ridiculous. That was just who could copy a puzzle faster. It wasn't actually
Yeah.
who could solve the puzzle faster, and to have that determine who goes to tribal council is cheap. I don't like it.
Yeah, I agree. I don't like it. I would not want to be voted out because the other tribe copied first. Yeah, I agree. I mean, look, if Jeff doesn't want to put up a divider or he doesn't want to put the puzzle cover up, I agree with you. He has to either kick it over himself or tell the tribe as soon as your puzzle is done, you have to dismantle it right away. I don't mind what happened last season when it comes to strategy with the red tribe helping yellow beat blue.
Yeah, I
And
don't mind
saying,
that. I don't mind that
if
either. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So if orange finishes, if Ratu finishes, and then Lauren goes over and said, or not goes over, but yells over, Carson, put 3 reds on the bottom. Like, I don't mind helping out in terms of the name of strategy, but I don't like just, hey, go over there and go copy their puzzle. And what, Dylan, what killed me, and this just makes it so much hard to watch. It wasn't like they copied and got it. They had to go back 4 or 5 times
It was brutal
to get it.
watch.
I'm like, if you can't get it, just
I was literally
over.
sitting there. I was literally yelling at my TV. I was literally like, how is the orange tribe not fucking kicking over the puzzle? Just kick it over. Kick it over.
Mm-hmm.
Like they were just sitting there watching them copy the puzzle. If I had solved the puzzle,
Mm-hmm.
right? On the Ratu tribe,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it was between green and it was between Tika and Soka who were copying. If I was on Ratu, I would have hated watching that. Like, I would not have been able to sit there and watch it. But you don't want to be the one guy to run up and kick it down, and then now you're just outing yourself and being
But you know what's crazy is that, like, and granted, obviously we didn't see the whole thing, but you would have been pissed off. I would have been pissed off. They were laughing. Brandon and Lauren and Kate, they were laughing. They thought it was hysterical.
I guess they were just like, oh, we're safe. Who cares?
Yeah,
what
we're
happens,
safe. We don't
right?
care.
Whereas last season, it's like the other tribe's helping the other tribe finish the puzzle. They're just like, who cares? We're safe. You're not. Like, whatever happens. So look, I personally don't like it. I would just say Jeff just kick it over, or Jeff just dismantle it, or have the tribe dismantle it as soon, or have a cover. But we'll see. I guess Jeff will never change that. So
yeah. I had 2 other quick notes, very, very, very quick notes about the challenge, and then we can get to some questions. Question for you. Do you care at all when Jeff comments about the game in a way that could sway the game? Because again, people were very torn on this. I personally didn't see a problem with it when Jeff is saying to Claire, you know, you've sat out of 3 challenges in a row. You've only played in 1 reward challenge so far. Some people feel like, you know, Jeff has to commentate on it. Like Jeff always used to say, Sandra and Courtney sit out, Abby Maria sits out, and they never got voted out for it. So who cares? We're being results oriented. But then other people are saying, well, no, he's kind of painting a narrative to make Claire look worse. So do you care that Jeff comments that much, or do you find that it's fine?
My opinion on it is that he probably makes other comments about other players, and we're seeing the one that he made about Claire because it's relevant to the storyline.
Because it fits the edit, right? Okay.
Right. So I think, and again, if Jeff is narrating and commentating, and there's the same person who sits out 3 challenges in a row, I think that he's valid for asking why, right? I don't mind it completely. So I also think he's probably made comments about other players that we don't see. So
all right. The last thing I have, and again, this could just be the problem with the new era, Dylan, is that we can't tell what the edit anymore. So I can't tell if this means something or this means absolutely nothing. But you notice in the challenge, before they go under the log in the sand, Matthew like grabs his shoulder because his shoulder's starting to hurt him. Now, I had a couple quick thoughts. Like, I didn't know if, you know, he was maybe acting for the other tribes. I didn't know if he was genuinely hurt and he had to maybe get his shoulder looked at again. I don't think he would ever get medevac for this because they can just pop the shoulder back in. So I think he's like safe from a medevac perspective. But I just found it interesting. Like, why are they showing him hurt his shoulder unless they're just showing it because it's just part of the game and they want to make the new era feel dangerous and hard? Like, I didn't understand why they showed it, but maybe it just means nothing.
I think they just like showing I think they just like showing players fight through injuries, you know? It's like Jeff's like a dig deep type thing.
Yeah.
So I didn't think too much of that.
Okay. Because again, I always think back to Tyson in this way, and I just, ever since Tyson did his thing with faking the injury a little bit or kind of milking it, I just can't tell anymore if there's any strategy behind this or if it's just genuine.
If there is, we'll probably know soon.
Yeah.
But let's get to questions. We had a question from Christian here. He says, "Hey guys, just curious. Do you think there's going to be a swap next week?" They did show a preview, and something is happening next week. I don't really know what it is. I got nothing. I think there's going to be a swap. I'm sure it's out there what it is. I'm sure that there's stuff that says. I don't want to know what it is.
Yeah.
But if I had to guess, I would say no. But if you know, then I would say
I'm not. If you don't want to know, I'm not going to say anything. Based on some pictures that I saw, because obviously CBS always releases some pictures before the episode. I'm 95 to 99% sure what's going to happen next week in terms of something. I'm not going to say what. I'll let you wait for Wednesday, but I'm pretty sure I know what's going to happen next week. So
cool.
Okay.
All right. One episode left before fake merge at 13 and 12. What do you guys think? I honestly have no read on this. I don't. What was the exact numbers? You would remember it. What were the exact numbers for the fake merge for the last 3 seasons? Do you know that?
Yeah. So in 41, we had basically, we had 6 people go out before the fake merge, because I think Sydney went out at 12 in the fake merge, and then because we lost 4 from the green tribe and we lost 2 from yellow. So we lost 6 people. Fake merge at 12. Sydney goes out, and then 11. The first person on the jury was Tiffany. So that was that season. The problem with 42 is Jackson's medevac. So that kind of made the numbers a bit fluky. So I think we lost 6. So Dylan, I think the pattern is we always lose in 41 and 42. We always lose 6 people, and then fake merge at 13 and then 12. What happened last season was they flipped it, because we lost Ellie, but Ellie was actually part of the fake merge at 13. So to answer the question, 41 and 42 fake merged at 12, then the real merge was at 11. But last season they switched it up and Ellie got fake merged, and that was at 13. But then we can get into the whole debate of like, well, then Dwight was part of the final 12, but then Dwight wasn't on the jury. So there's a lot of flukiness with the numbers. I think, to answer Christian's question, because we lost Bruce to a medevac, I think now that we're down to 14 now, I think we're going to have 2 more votes, and then I think we'll have the fake merge.
I think I agree with that. I agree. I'm not the biggest. I got to admit, I'm not the biggest numbers guy in terms of merges. But I think 2 episodes is what I think with the medevac, if I had to guess. All right. Did you listen to Jeff's podcast after the episode? I did not listen this week. The reason I am that we're podcasting on a Sunday is because we've both been very swamped this week. So I did not get a chance to listen yet. Did you get a chance?
No, and honestly, I need to find time to listen to it, because I would be curious to hear Jeff's perspective. He's obviously released 3 episodes now after each episode. I've never seen an episode listen to a podcast through for him. I've listened to like clips on Twitter. So I've seen various clips, and I felt bad, but I was laughing because he has a section, Dylan, where people give him critiques and they give him like negative feedback, and people like us said to him, Jeff, stop with the analogies. We're so sick of the metaphors. And Jeff was like, he said, because I'm upset because I know I'm not good at them, but I like making them. So I listened to a couple highlights from Jeff's podcast, but I didn't listen to the whole thing yet.
Yeah, I got to get to that. Do we think season 45 is going to be a medevac returnee season or an all-star season? I think 45 is going to be all new again, if I had to guess.
Yeah.
And then I think 46 will be the returnee season, which I don't know what that's going to be. I'm going to guess that it's all returnees. I don't know what the format will be, though.
So I've heard some rumors. Again, I'm not going to say anything in particular, but I've heard some rumors, and I don't know if it's going to be 45 or 46 or 47, but it's clear now that people are going to start to come back soon, because now you're building up a cast of new era players. Now we can get into a whole debate of, are the old school players done? Are we ever going to see people like, Christian and Angelina and Dominic? Are we ever going to see them again? I hope we do. But if we're going to stick with the new era for the time being, what's it called? You have 18 people a season. You multiply that by 4, 72 new players so far. You want to add one more new season for 45. You have 90. So you've now built up a really good pool of newbies. Like All Stars happened on season 8. You had already built up 7 seasons of new people. So it's going to happen very soon at this point. In terms of what it would be, look, all I'm going to say is that you have so many. They have a lot of options, right, Dylan? Like they have so many people post-merge, like your Jessies, your Carlas, your Omers, your Shans, your Dreas. You have a lot of options post-merge. You also have people early, like you have your Bruces that got medevaced. You have people like Claire you want to give a second chance to. You want to give a second chance to Helen. You want to give a second chance to Jenny from 42. So it's like they have a lot of options. I don't know where they would go with it, but I think they have some options.
I'm going to guess that if I had to take a prediction on a theme, it seems like the obvious choice should be New Era versus Old Era, right? Because they keep pushing.
I want that, yeah.
So I want to see what would happen in that season, but that's my guess.
New Era versus Old Era would be good. If that's going to happen, I could see a scenario where that happens towards the end of the 40s, like maybe 48, 9, 50. I could see that happening later. I could see sooner being more of like a second chance type of New Era season. But then you have your people like your big players that lost, like Jesse's, but then you have your people like Bruce's that needed, they need a fair second chance.
Right, so. Right.
And then there's no more questions, Dylan, but the last comment that I heard rumors about was eventually I heard rumors that they might move out of Fiji. If that's the case, I would be all for it because obviously we've been here since, I'm pretty sure we've been here since 34 or 33. We've been here for a very, very long time. So I would love to finally get back to Samoa or get back to some other locations.
Yeah, I would love that also. The one podcast I did listen to from Jeff, he was talking about how, why like Fiji's been amazing to us. We love staying in Fiji. So I don't know how true the rumors are, but we'll see. I hope they are true.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's all we got for today. Yep. We'll be back at some point next week discussing episode 4. I don't know what exactly the date or the time will be for that, but we will let you guys know.
Yep.
And yeah, excited for episode 4 coming this week.
Excited, Dylan. I can't wait to talk about it. As always, grab your torches and apparently your gargoyles too, and head back to camp.
Good night.